Hi everybody, welcome to Painting for Pleasure. I'm your host Tony Fisco. We're going to do a golf scene today. We're going to do a golf course. Actually, it's Indian Pond over in Kingston, Massachusetts. It's got a lovely bridge going over some water, some of the golf area, the greens, and some trees in the background. Here's a black and white piece. This is basically what I'm looking at, and this is what I'm going to roughly do. So it's going to be fairly dark in the background. I'm going to make it a little bit lighter than this. The bridge is going to be fairly mid-tone and some darks under here, a little bit of light here. So we're going to work with that, obviously in color. So let's just go ahead and see where we're at here. Let me get this thing straightened out, put up so that we can see it in the camera. And what I'll do is I'll just add a bit of tape to the tops to keep it from moving around. That's always a problem. Every once in a while I wet the front and the back, but once it dries out, and that usually keeps it pretty steady, but once it dries out, it's a problem. Now I'm dealing with BFK Reeves. This is a very soft fibered paper. So what's going to end up happening here is that area that I taped will undoubtedly rip on me because that's the nature of the soft fibers. But it's 140 pounds, cold press, pH negative. It's 100% rag. It's a lovely paper to paint on. You have to do a nice soft fiber, but you cannot do a lot of different things. You can't mask with this. You can't put any tape on it. This is just a paper that we got to be very, very delicate with. So what I'm going to do is start off with my sky, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to end up wetting the right side a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to end up coming in here. I'm not wetting this. This is going to be dry, but I'm going to paint this. I'm going to start off with my cerulean blue, a little bit of water. Let's mix it up so that it'll flow around, and then I'm going to flow it into that wet area. So I'm going to start off with wet on dry and then go into wet on wet. Okay, so see what this is like right now? So let's give that a try. So we're going to start over here, come across, and go into that wet area. And I'm going to leave these skips, a little few areas that are skips, and I'll make it nice and soft in here. So I'm hot edging it down here. Add a little bit more water. And then we're going to come in, and because this is going to be green, I'm just going to change all that to green right now. All right, but we're going to do it nice and light. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to mix up my new gamboge with a little bit of that cerulean blue. Can you see that? Okay. New gamboge. And get it nice and watery. And come in here where all this is going to be all areas where my tree is going to be. We're just going to let that flow in there. We'll take care of that. Now this is the light background. All right, so on my light background, I'm just looking for warmth. Okay, just looking for a little bit of warmth, nice and light. And I'm going to come down here a little bit more. Come right into this area down in this here, which will ultimately be all dark. Got a little guy out there, got to be careful of him. want to make sure that I work around him. No, I didn't work around him, but we'll give that a shot. Okay. And what I'm also going to do is work my way down. Now this is very light. I want this super, super, super light. Super light green. So again, I'm taking my cerulean blue, mixing it in with a little bit of my what am I mixing in with this? Cerulean blue. Cerulean blue, new gambos together. Again. This is not the shadow areas. But it is the green of the golf course. I will end up shadowing some of these areas a little bit more, but I'm going to let that go. Just putting in some color, changing this up a bit. These trees are going to be darker, and so all of this stuff in here, I'm going to have my trees are going to go up in this area here. Okay, my trees are going to go up into this area here. Now all I'm doing now is taking a little bit of more cerulean blue with my mixture of green and blues over here, and coming in here and just adding some of that here and there. Okay. Adding some green. What I'm going to do now is take some yellow ochre while it's still wet, and I'm going to end up mixing up some yellow ochre which is going to give me I'm going to add a little bit of my yellow ochre with a little bit of cadmium orange, so it's got a lot more pigment in it. Yellow ochre, a little cadmium. Okay, all right. And as I look at my area, we want to do something a little bit more, like put some stronger values in here and there. So that they'll stay in place, okay? This is a sort of the golf scene. You're right, it's a golf scene, but it's fall, and I don't want to get. I'm going to add a little bit of my red to it, pyro red in here. Just a little bit of rust on the ground. A little bit of this here. So we'll consider this our late summer, early fall, with a few people on the golf course, or at least one person on the golf course. Heavy shadows going to be in here, and I'm going to come down here because I've got to come down in this area and do a little bit more work down here. I'm going to leave that alone for a while. and get this light straw, sort of light straw value over here near the bridge. Now these are all sort of tall weeds, well, not weeds, but they're both, I don't know what quite what they're called. I want to say they're sort of, I'm going to use the word cat o' nine tails, but they're not quite cat o' nine tails. But we want to put that in along with where the bridge is. And what's going to end up happening is my bridge is going to be bluish in tone, and so we're going to just start to move that down. Now as I take a look at this, this is really wet right now in here. We'll put some shadow in there. I'm going to let it set, let it dry a little bit. We're going to start to come down a little bit more. I'm going to put some of this tonal value down here, but I want to work my way down. So I'm going to start with that blue. Now we're going to get into my blues for my water in the bridge. We'll have some warm colors in there, but predominantly blue. All right, so let's take a look at this. Put some water in here. Clean up my palette a little bit. Get all of this green off here. We'll put some of that back in, but I'm going to let that dry a bit first. The idea is we want to create a nice bright area. So let's take a look at what we can do with this blue. So we're going to go to our cobalt blue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, because pretty much this is all going to be cobalt blue. We got a bright area. I don't want to quite get into those areas there, so I'm going to leave a little trap line. Coming across. We'll put some warm colors in here as well, but I want to get my base color down because it's going to be cool. And because this is, I actually don't have to even worry about going over the water. I'm just going to do all of this cool. Hit into my water. All right. We'll make all of this wet. Now, what I'm having a problem with here is I don't want to just half the page, half of it blue, half of it warm. You know what I mean? The coolest stuff. But I'm going to make this all darker over here anyway, and we're going to end up taking some of this light blue. It's cobalt blue. And we're going to come back in here and start to make some shadows. Darker areas. ultimately I'm going to make this dark, I think. Or at least a lot of it is going to be dark. Make that dark down here. Want this balanced out. Remember what I said before. This is the idea behind here is I don't want to make this even. That is to say, I don't want this area to be warm, that area to be cool. I'm cooling off some of these areas under here where we're going to make this probably darker. Oh my guy. Okay, a little bit too light, but good for now. I'm going to darken it all up. I'm going to darken all of that up. I'm going to darken all of this stuff up down here too, because my blue combined with I'm going to make some nice bright here. I'm going to get some. I have something called peacock green, which is almost like a turquoise. It's a little heavier than cerulean blue. And I'm going to add to that my new gamboge. Okay, you see what I'm doing? Okay, let me just make sure you understand what I'm doing there, right there. Add to that. So it's cerulean blue is just as good. You can use a cerulean blue. I have to have some peacock, which is makes it a little bit more greener. That's just for the shadow areas on the green. And I have to look at this now. What I'm actually doing is coming in here and sort of taking a look at this and my reference material to see how I want to handle this. And I am looking at, what am I looking at here? So I'm looking at, this is light right here. So there's a sand trap right here. Okay, in this area here. So I'm looking at some darks right here. And I'm going to take my other brush, and that was my other brush that I have here, this little one, and I'm going to soften up. I'm adding a little color, and I'm softening up the edges. Okay, and I'm going to soften up the edges as I come down here. Okay. Make that darker over here. We're going to add a little bit of that dark there. Shadow. And somewhere in here we're doing something the same way. And we have a sand trap right here. You go off and we have this light area where my green is going to be off in the distance. But I want to get these shadows. They're going to be darker. They're going to be actually blue, but I just want to put them in right now so I know where I'm going with this stuff. Because some of them are going to be lighter. Changing up the color a little bit. Adding my new gamboge to this over this green, and we're going to come in with a little bit more shadow. We'll soften some of that area up. Make that a little bit darker. A little bit darker over here too. Just added, what I'm doing is I'm coming in here and adding a little bit of French ultramarine blue to this to get some of those real dark areas. For instance, we have a real dark area here, and we have the dark area that's going to come around like this. We have this is really dark down here. And I'll add a little bit more darkness to this. And we're going to end up probably doing something like this. I'm trying to create the illusion. What's the illusion? The illusion is a golf course that's got some heavy color to it, heavy shadows in it. Shadows in here, here. Okay. Let's make sure that that's nice and sunny. All right. And let's get a little bit of warmth in some of those shadows by adding a little bit of a little bit of burnt sienna to darken these up a little bit more. Interesting area. We'll see what happens if doing that. When we're going to end up going back in here and doing the same thing, we're going to add some burnt sienna. In a lot of these areas, but I'm going to mix my burnt sienna with my cobalt blue. A little bit of cobalt blue, a little bit of burnt sienna. A little bit of, and we want what do we want here? We want to create some darks. Shadow sides. So I'm adding a little bit of blue, a little bit of burnt sienna to this area. These are the dark areas in here. Coming over here. We have all of these sort of lighter tree trunks that are part of this. A little bit of cobalt blue. That's where my darks are. See, we're so slowly, we're still wet into wet, slowly building this up, leaving some gaps, some spaces. Okay, still coming down. Still using my cobalt blue here, cobalt blue and burnt sienna. And we're mixing it up in here. Cobalt, a little bit darker up in that area there. This is pretty much dark right down in this area here where there's no sun is behind here, but we're going to end up getting sunlit here in a second. So I want these trees to be, I want some bright trees and I want some shadow. There's all this shadowed area in here. Make some of this really dark. I was going to try to paint in another style. I was going to come over, I started to think about painting in somebody else's style, and I said, you know what? It's not going to be successful. It's easier for me just to work out. I mean, I have my own style, so that's what I'm doing. Now, let's get over here. That's nice and bright. I like that. It's nice, light, bright. Some more. There's a lot of filtration of light in here. There's a lot of light filtering in. Basically what I'm doing is I'm combining my colors. See, my colors are going to be cobalt blue, cerulean blue, yellow ochre, and new gamboge, and burnt sienna. And that's what I'm putting in here. Some of it's wet, some of it's a little drier. As an example, we're going to just come over here and pick up a little bit of my yellow ochre and make this tree up here dry. Alright. And we'll pick up a little bit of burnt sienna. And make this a little bit brighter up here. And maybe some tops of some trees. Alright, so let's go back and fill in. We got a little bit more of this darker color down here. What I'm doing is I think you can see what I'm doing, I think. I'm creating some tree trunks over here that are lighter than the background. So this is negative painting. Painting between my trunks and leaving some interesting shapes. And if we have an issue, we'll have to deal with it, but I think we're okay. I want to make some of this in here even darker. Burnt sienna with it. Make it a little bit warmer. Combination of, it's very interesting because it's beautiful combination of values and paint around my guy. Nice combination of values. Some of them warm, some of them cool. Have to carefully paint around him. So when they're doing his own thing, I don't know what he's doing. He's just sort of walking the course, I guess. Now what I want to do is probably come up here and create a little bit more darker. A little bit more darker area. I don't want all this. I want some of it darker. I don't want all of it coming along this line. Some of this stuff has got to be a little bit stronger up in the top of those trees. Okay, and then when we come over here, we'll just get it lighter. We'll do some stuff, put some what looks like needles. Some of the dark areas over here. We got light filtering in. Over here, so we'll just do something like this. And colors that are harmonious. We'll turn harmony. We want this to be all working together for a common goal. Okay. A little bit of orange. And we'll make a couple of bright spots. Right, a couple of bingos. All right. So we got something going on back there. We got some nice stuff. Now we'll probably get some of that area when it dries out. We may end up going back in and doing it even a little bit darker. But right now what I'm going to do is get some real dark French ultramarine blue, add a little bit of burnt sienna to it, and just hit the bottoms here. Some of this is darker, real dark. Maybe I have to let this dry a bit more. Not sure right now. Okay, let's see where that takes us. Okay, so we have burnt sienna back here. And let's get some light. A little yellow ochre. Hello. Let that dry up a bit. Coming over here now, coming down to my area where my bridge is, I'm going to take some of that yellow ochre and hit it here and there. Now we have, this is pretty dark. Down against the bridge. Okay. I'm going to start out here like this. I'm going to change that over so that we're getting greener as we go across. So there's a variation in that. And it'll give me an edging for my bridge. Let that dry. That's all going to dry up. Okay, so let's get some. I want to get some cleaner water in here. We'll get some blue water. I want to still work with that green. But what I want to do is, oh, whoops, we need to get some water here. I'm running out of water. Yeah. What am I using right now? I'm using a little bit of, in this area right here, lavender. Lavender's nice. Love it. It's a nice color. Gives me the inside feel that I want. I need to line this up, make this a little bit darker over here, a little bit of lavender, and a little bit of cobalt. Right at the top. Okay. Now we're going to have some brighter areas as well inside that bridge, inside that area. It'll go from bright to lavender again. I know. This is between, you know, this is actually where we're walking. And it's going to get a little bit darker. And more neutral in color. Pick up some of the neutrals. What I'm doing is to get those neutrals, I'm just adding my burnt sienna and my cobalt blue together, turning it more grayish, if you will. Okay. Okay, that takes care of that. Now, for now anyway, I do want to take a tissue. I don't mean to sound bland, guys. I'm just sort of talking here as I'm talking myself, talking my way through it. Just to give you, keep you updated here. But this is basically what I'm really doing. It's just filling in some spots on the inside. Actually, I may take a little bit of my alizarin crimson as well. And do something like that. Now, I'm going to come down here and do the bridge essentially the same way. And I'm going to start to do that sort of right across here. Put some of these stones in. Some light values. We're going to change it up a little bit. Warm some of it. Some of it's going to be cool. Maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson in some of those areas. Nice touch, a little warm, a little cool. Some of the areas are going to be darker and grayer. And come down here, maybe make some of this. Because I'm going to end up having some real warm stuff down here, so we're going to have to cool this down a bit. Big shapes. My bridge. We end up a little bit of warmth here. Okay, and then we're going to come back and get some cobalt blue and put it in here, make that light. The light's hitting that bridge, that stone bridge. There's sunlight that's hitting it and causing all kinds of interesting color variations and shadows. It's pretty dark in here. So over there, we'll give that a little bit of a touch. We'll do maybe a little bit more blue. A little blue and a little bit of, let's get that purplish look to it. Add a little bit of that alizarin crimson, I suppose, to this. To that area. go back over here and we'll create some of this. I'll have to take my my brush, and after it dries, pull out a little bit of light over there. We'll let that dry, and I'm going to start to put in my rocks, my stones, so that you'll have some edging in the stones. This is not quite what I wanted it to do, but you know what? We'll live with it. We're now going to start to put in some real darks under here. I'm just basically just French ultramarine blue right now, just using this dagger brush here to create my edges. A lot of pigment. Could do this with a big brush, actually. Probably be better off doing it with a big brush because it would have taken me half the time. That's going to take me now. Alright, there's that. Now we have one more. And I'm going to put in some burnt sienna. I'm going to make that real dark pretty soon. But we have this. Same thing. Nice and strong. Strong this way as well. That's reflection. The reflection. Right under the bridge. We want that bridge to stand out. No, so in order for that bridge to stand out, we're actually going to do even darker. What is this? Burnt sienna. Burnt sienna on top of that blue. Burnt sienna. Right on top of that blue, right? Nice and strong. A lot of pigment, very little water, because the water's already down. The water's already there. The water's in the blue. All right. The water, just the burnt sienna, very strong burnt sienna on top of the blue. No water. No water because the water's already in the blue. We put the blue down wet. All right, so now we're going to use it. We're going to come in here and we're just basically coming in here with a lot of pigment, very little. Just the brush is as dry Well, it's damp. I shouldn't say it's that dry, but and this is going to create a variation in the shadow. Okay. And with that, I'll do this. We need to do the same thing here because we need to put some shadows. Bulrushes, bulrushes. Is that what I want to say? Bulrushes, does that make sense? See how my mind works? It's amazing. All right. A little something on the other side there. So, let's go back and take a little bit of this cobalt blue stuff. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to clean my palette before I do anything. I got all this green stuff. I want to get just clean blues. So let's just clean up the palette a little bit. And we'll get some blue. I want to get that water, all of this reflection on the pond, and wash off that palette nice and make it nice and clean. And in the meantime, that's will help that to dry out. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I think what I'm going to do is come in here a little bit. Let's get a little bit of blue. And we're going to just start hitting. Hit some of these lines that we have here. Couple of darks. Couple of darks. We'll mix this up a little bit. Some darks. And We'll change up the values a little bit more. Make some of this like hot, where's the hot pinks? We'll do this. Maybe take a little bit of I want to get a little bit of this lighter value in here. Sunlight's on this, playing a lot on this stuff. Oh, the sunlight's hitting it here, look. Maybe a nice strong yellow ochre one right here. A couple of little ones. Yeah. Stone wall. Going to be some down here that are going to be fairly dark. My bridge. Okay. Let's get this dark over here. We have some green. I'm going to just make a little bit of, I cleaned up my palette, I know, but we're going to make a little bit of this. Now this is reflections. And reflections in the water from the stuff that's going on up here. This is all this stuff here. Okay, my reflection's there. It'll make it, it's going to end up being darker. It's got to be a lot darker than that. A little bit of neutral. A little bit of ochre. Reflections are what? Reflections are always like vertical. We'll put the stones in a second. This will dry lighter. Yellow ochre. Some strong yellow ochre. Okay. Okay. that pink stuff, right? Let's get that pinky. So what am I doing? I'm going to wet this a little bit. Let's get a clean one. Clean tissue. And we'll do some clean water. Right. Get some fresh water, clean tissue. Make this look realistic. Well, we don't need to make it tight, realistic. We need to make it. Just need to come in here and make sure that we got something interesting that we can work with. So I'm going to just take some clean water, yeah, and down, start making some streaks. Then I'm going to take my brush. I want to take this nice flat brush. Let's see if we get a nice chiseled. Let's get a chiseled edge. Thirsty brush. Take some water. We want the feeling. So we want the general overall feeling of bulrushes, cat nine tails, whatever's here. Some of this is going to be nice and light. Alright, I'm going to make some nice light areas. Then we're going to put in some darker lines. Is that dark enough? Do we have a feeling that we have a bridge there? Sand trap. That sand trap has green. Okay. Right. Bulrushes. Greens. All right. Okay. Let's get some darker darks. All right, this is just a cleanup or a finish up on where we're going with this. I'm sorry, I was very quiet. I get wrapped up into this. I'm not talking, I'm just putting darks in here. Again, burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue. Create those darks and get some highlights in there as well. And all of this. All right, highlights under the bridge and the bulrushes. So we'll do that with my rigger. Dry brush effect. Nice. And we'll do, this is create that shadow over there. And what happens, these are going, this is going up. I'll kill that shit, I'll kill that white afterwards. Okay, let's see if I can get some of this stuff going here. Get some nice lights. We'll create some interesting areas here of darks. Some grays. Going back to some neutral colors, which is basically my cobalt blue mixed in with my opera. It's all mixed up. All right, yellow ochre, a little cadmium orange. This is just wild weeds. Whatever it is, I'm not sure what it is. Okay. All right, we'll let that, this is too straight to me, but we'll let it go. I'm gonna let it go. We'll just let it go, let it ride. Is it? Are we done? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to let it alone for now. We'll just let it sit for the night. And I'll check it in the morning, and if it looks good, we'll call it a painting. I want a little bit more shadow here. And I'm going to put a little bit more shadow in here as well. Like it. I think I'm liking it. I think I'm liking it. A little bit more shadow there too. Okay.